Amidst the inky blackness of a moonless night, the shadows stretched long and ominous along the desolate stretch of Route 66. The chilling wind whispered through the gnarled branches of the barren trees, creating an eerie symphony of creaks and moans that seemed to herald the arrival of something otherworldly. Jennifer, a young woman with hair as dark as the night itself, was driving along the lonely highway, her knuckles white against the steering wheel as she navigated the winding road. Her heart thudded in her chest, a sense of unease creeping over her like a shroud. As she rounded a sharp bend, her headlights illuminated a figure standing at the side of the road. A hitchhiker, their features obscured by the shadows, waved a tentative hand in the universal sign of need. Jennifer hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to keep driving, but a sense of compassion overrode her fear, and she pulled over to offer the stranger a ride. The hitchhiker climbed into the passenger seat, their presence casting a pall over the interior of the car. Jennifer stole a quick glance at her passenger, her breath catching in her throat as she realized the figure was cloaked in a tattered shroud, their face hidden in darkness. "Thank you," the hitchhiker murmured, their voice a whisper that sent a shiver down Jennifer's spine. "I appreciate your kindness, for I have traveled far and have no place to call home." Jennifer tried to shake off the feeling of dread that clung to her like a second skin. "Where are you headed?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper in the oppressive silence of the car. The hitchhiker turned their head slightly, the dim glow of the dashboard lights illuminating their hollow eyes. "I seek only to reach the end of this road, to find peace at last," they replied cryptically. Jennifer's heart raced in her chest, the hairs on the back of her neck standing on end. She pushed the accelerator, eager to reach the end of their journey and rid herself of the phantom presence beside her. As they drove on, the hitchhiker began to recount a tale of tragedy and despair, weaving a haunting narrative that sent a chill through Jennifer's very soul. They spoke of a lost love, a betrayal that had shattered their heart and driven them to wander the earth in search of solace. Unnerved by the hitchhiker's tale, Jennifer tried to focus on the road ahead, her thoughts a jumble of fear and confusion. The hitchhiker's voice grew more insistent, their words a lamentation that echoed in the stillness of the night. Suddenly, the car lurched to a stop, the engine sputtering and dying as if strangled by an unseen force. Jennifer's heart thundered in her chest as she tried to restart the car, panic rising in her throat like bile. "We have reached the end of the road," the hitchhiker intoned, their hollow gaze fixed on the darkness beyond the windshield. Jennifer's hands trembled as she fumbled for her phone, her heart hammering in her chest as she realized there was no signal, no hope of calling for help. The hitchhiker turned to face her fully, their features cast in shadow that seemed to warp and shift like a specter from another realm. "You have been chosen, my dear," the hitchhiker whispered, their voice a chilling caress that made Jennifer's blood run cold. "Chosen to hear my tale, to bear witness to my torment, and to share in my eternal sorrow." With a sinking feeling of dread, Jennifer realized she was trapped, ensnared in a nightmare from which there was no escape. The hitchhiker's form began to waver, ghostly and insubstantial as they reached out a hand to touch Jennifer's cheek, their touch cold as ice. In a sudden burst of courage, Jennifer pushed open the car door and stumbled out into the frigid night, her breath forming clouds in the air. The hitchhiker's form dissolved into mist, swirling around her like a storm as they whispered in her ear. "Run, dear Jennifer, run from the curse that binds us together," they urged, their voice fading into the darkness as Jennifer fled into the night, her heart pounding in her ears. As she ran, the shadows seemed to reach out for her, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes that threatened to drag her down into the depths of despair. She stumbled and fell, her hands scrabbling against the cold earth as she fought to regain her footing. But just as she felt the icy grip of fear closing in around her, a light appeared in the distance, a beacon of hope that beckoned her forward. With renewed determination, Jennifer rose to her feet and sprinted towards the light, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she neared the source of salvation. As she reached the light, she saw a figure waiting for her, their face kind and familiar in the glow of the headlights. It was a woman with hair as dark as the night itself, her eyes filled with understanding and compassion. "Come with me, Jennifer," the woman said, her voice a balm to Jennifer's frayed nerves. "I will protect you from the darkness that seeks to consume us both." Without hesitation, Jennifer took the woman's outstretched hand, feeling a sense of peace and safety wash over her like a warm embrace. Together, they walked into the light, leaving behind the shadowy specter of the phantom hitchhiker and the haunted road that had almost claimed their souls. And as they vanished into the night, the tattered figure of the hitchhiker watched from the shadows, their eyes filled with an ancient sorrow that would haunt the lonely highway for eternity. For the phantom hitchhiker had found a new victim, but this time, they had also found a glimmer of hope in the darkness, a flicker of light that refused to be extinguished.